Hi, this is Billie Beene here with a U.S. news update. Today's date, February 20, 2024, Tuesday, time about 11 a.m. in Texas, episode 138. Some of the things we'll be covering: fog, Planet X, Texas Intel, whooping cough, deep state courts, and white skin. Some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot subscribers, Pastor Paul BEGLEY and Mike from around the world, Dr. Martin Luther King, Kat Kerr, State of the Union, Forbes, Breitbart, Real Raw News, All Things Finance, USA Today, American Military. So let's get started. I'm gonna begin by drawing a map, and we'll talk about weather and what's going on in space. And then we'll move on to Planet X. Okay. So a U.S. map. We've got this going on: Florida, Texas, California. So for our weather, in Texas, it's supposed to be quiet, but on Tuesday and Wednesday, we would have fog, as will other areas of the U.S. Now, what's causing this fog, is somewhat questionable, but fog it is. And in space weather, we have on the sun a big spot. I think that's 3590 that will be turning to face Earth, and possibly we could get some M or X flares from this in the next few days. Now, across the U.S., California is still being hit significantly and may actually be in line for some thunderstorms and tornadoes. While across this part of the U.S., we're having cool temperatures, some snow areas. It's anticipated that after this week, and that lines up with the Groundhog Day forecast for an early spring, that we'll be seeing across the U.S. Warmer temperatures. So that's going on, and less rain. And now let's talk about what's going on. We'll talk about Planet X. Now, many people have been hearing about Planet X for decades. So we've got the Earth, we've got the Sun, and we have something going on in space. Like Ben Davidson with Suspicious Observers uses this model that depicts a galactic sheet. Mike from around the world often uses the term waves of energy. And then we've heard Planet X, Nibiru. So that's going on. Now, recently, Pastor Paul BEGLEY had a webinar, Planet X, and Mike from around the world came on and gave an update for Planet X, or something going on in space that will impact Earth. And this is what he said in 2024, in the first 2 months, January through March. We're going to have the impact increasing, and this will be in terms of geology on the Earth, impact on human health and human thinking, and that we would see more impacts, and this would last for 10 to 20 years. So we're not seeing, a major something happening very soon in the future. Now, this would line up with Cliff High's prediction in 2030 for an ice age. So it's about the same time frame. And I found it interesting that what Mike predicted in the government, he works, we believe, for NSA or FEMA, what the government expects to see on people is that they will turn against their government, and we're seeing that in the U.S. We saw that recent event in Texas. Texas and 25 other states, that's 26 states out of 50, turning against the U.S. government. And we're seeing this rise of farmers in Portugal, in Spain, in France, in Belgium, in Poland, in Romania, and other locations turning against their government. And we're seeing coups going on around the world, and we have been seeing that in the last few years. So one impact on humans with the space event is they will turn against their government. Now, I submit that the space event is increasing, like the Schumann vibration in the earth. It's increasing human awareness. And I submit that this is the basis for people uniting and rising up against evil and corrupt governments. And Mike said also one thing is the governments will not protect states. And we're seeing that in the U.S. and other countries are also seeing this. And that we will see changes in the Earth orbit, and we are seeing this, and changes in the stars and we see in the sky. So, and he says the U.S. government and all governments are hiding information about Planet X from the people. So, that's going on. But we do see people more energetic, more aware, and uniting and rising up against evil and corrupt governments. And now we have this about Texas. So coming down like this. And we know Texas plus 25 other states, that's 26 out of 50, are united against the government, stating that constitutionally the current U.S. federal government has failed to protect states against invasion. And we have coming in, it's believed 10 million in the last 3 years since the JB group alleged to be in power, have allowed in military-age males from China, from Iran, Hezbollah, other terrorists, to be coordinated by the evil and corrupt UN and an attack inside the U.S. We are being invaded. Across the southern border, our northern border, and both coasts. Now, this is coming out. So now Texas is building a military base that's near Eagle Pass, Texas. It's to be called Operating Base Eagle. It will house up to 1,800 to 2,300 military. Now, this new information coming out is that as Texas puts in place a solid, unified military base, that they will expand the barriers and razor wire both north and south along the Texas border to eventually include all areas that are not legal places for migrants to come in. Now, I'll explain. My Patriot subscribers say, don't call them migrants, call them illegals. Okay. To me, migrants are individuals who go through the process we have to apply to come legally into the U.S. I call that group migrants. The other individuals coming in illegally are illegals. And that resonates with my Patriot subscribers. So that's going on. And according to Texas Military General, so Texas Military General, Texas has its own military. We have the U.S. Federal National Guard, we have Texas National Guard, and we have Texas military, and we have millions of patriot citizens in Texas organized into militias. But this is the Texas military, a department of Texas government, headed up by General Sewell Zur. So now, and he is bringing this information out. Texas military is also going to be adding 3 fan boats. A lot of people call them airboats. They have these big fans on the back of them. The Rio Grande is a river between Mexico and Texas, is relatively shallow. So an airboat would be perfect. And they're adding drone and additional radar tracking systems. We say, way to go, Texas. And now from Forbes. There was a recent dust-up on the Texas-Mexico border that involved the Mexican military, who shot and killed 12 cartel members. And that happened on Sunday, February 18th. And now we have this. Okay, we're going to talk about now whooping cough, which is a contagious disease. Okay, whooping cough. And I brought out that recent information, and I submit to you, we're seeing a pattern of release of this information. I believe the objective is to plant in American citizens' minds that they may want to get a whooping cough vaccine. But I'll go over this. So what I brought out, the information in my previous video, whooping cough, and it's also called pertussis. And the new information that came out about the pharma for the arm, the vax, that the vax for pertussis, commonly called whooping cough, simply takes the symptoms down, but the individual remains contagious. And now we have this coming out from Hawaii. So in Hawaii, they're saying they had 5 new cases of whooping cough just in the past few days, and it came from unvaxxed U.S. citizens coming from the mainland to Hawaii. So that's what I'm pointing out. Now, whooping cough is a bacterial infection that does respond to antibiotics. And the symptoms is a deep cough. So getting the vax may lighten the symptoms should you contract it, but it remains contagious in people. So in other words, whooping cough is a ubiquitous, it's everywhere, contagious, respiratory coughing disease, just like cold and flu. Now, our God-created immune system, once we've had it, knows our killer cells immune killer cells can identify it and take it right out. So, I don't know. All it does is take down the severity of the symptoms, but you remain contagious. So, to me, for me, this doesn't appear to be a vax that's really needed. So, that's going on. I'm bringing this out to point out to you that I see a pattern of persuasion going on here. And now we'll talk about, I have a Patriot subscriber who's talking about President Trump. For 8 years, we've had lawfare versus President Trump. And President Trump appears to be the only one standing up against the deep state. Way to go, Patriot subscriber. I agree with you. Now we'll talk about some court cases that have been going on inside the U.S. versus President Trump. You know, when you're over the target, that you begin to see the deep state manipulating against you. Now, recently, this week, we had a judge, Aileen Cannon, and she ruled President Trump cannot postpone. This has to do with a court charge about the classified documents that allegedly the FBI found at Mar-a-Lago. Now, once again, it's legal for a president of the United States to have classified documents because he or she has the authority to declassify the documents. Whereas we saw recently the Department of Justice came out against a JB while he was vice president. He did illegally have classified documents in his garage. But the DOJ found, yeah, he's guilty, but he's not mentally competent to stand trial. But now this court and the deep state FBI wants to go against President Trump, supposedly for having classified documents. Now, this correlates to removing immunity from President Trump. Hey, you remove immunity from President Trump, that makes Obama and Bush and Clinton equally liable, and I assure you, 80% of the American people who are awake will go after them. Hopefully they have a court hearing before they bring in justice. Now, classified documents, and we had that special counsel, Jack Smith, for the Department of Justice, and it's come out months ago. He's not legally a special prosecutor because the special prosecutor can only be appointed by Congress, not the Department of Justice. So once again, we see another example of all deep state courts throwing out the Constitution, all levels of law, federal, state, and local. Yeah, operating as weaponized arms of the Dem Party. Special counsel Jack Smith, yep, not appointed by counsel, so he's not legally in that position. Now, so this court will see President Trump in court. A recent finding by Judge Cannon was no postponement for motions, and that occurred on February 22. And then the real court date will be coming up May 20. So that's going on. And now we have this. Yeah. All right. So we had recently Elon Musk and this DOJ court. We had Elon Musk, and he brought a charge against Dish. That's a large cable company, CEO Urgent, and BlackRock. And that had to do with some type of monopoly on wireless network. And who is in bed with this group? The FCC. As I have said before, we've got the U.S. government, we have agencies, CDC, NIH, FDA, the FCC, that's supposed to govern communications, but they're all incorporated as independent companies. They get money from the U.S. government. They are not kept in check by the U.S. government, and they're sold out to the companies that are in the business they're supposedly regulating. This group are owned and operated by Big Pharma. this group by big tech. Yeah, it's going on. So Elon Musk in 2023, yeah, he accused Virgin of a monopoly. Now it's coming out from Breitbart is reporting that he also is, can we believe it, a huge $1 million donor to the Democratic Party. So we see what's going on. Now, USA Today is bringing this out about SCOTUS. SCOTUS is the U.S. Federal Supreme Court, and they're going to let sanctions stand against President Trump's attorney, Sidney Powell, Lynn Wood, and others who brought charges against a state, Michigan, engaging in voter fraud in 2020. So we see when President Trump is back, we definitely need to also clean out the Supreme Court. So that's going on. And now we have this. This comes from Real Raw News. Oh yeah, recently in New York, we saw a judge, and his name is Angleton. And now we understand his worth is about $100 million. Why is he still practicing as a judge? Isn't it because he gets all this money from the deep state? And so he came out against President Trump, saying he had to pay $355 million fine. That had to do with overvaluing real estate for bank purposes. I brought that out in the previous video. Nothing about this looks like law. It looks like lawfare. This court operating as a weaponized arm of the Democratic Party. This judge, Arthur Angleton, worth about $100 million. And President Trump will appeal to the New York Appellate Division. And the truckers taking it to the streets have protested this finding and are saying, many independent truckers, we're not going to make deliveries to New York City. So that's going on. And now we'll talk about skin color. So we know the U.S. military has had their recruiting in like the years 2018 to 2023 down significantly. The last they missed was 10,000 in 2023. And I put this forth about skin color. Now, the deep state had begun a campaign about 2018 saying they were representing the U.S. military and that the U.S. military did not want whites. And I'll go into the reason for this. Okay. And so what we see is in 2018, the number of white recruitments to the U.S. military were about 45,000. In 2023, they were about 25,000. So we see a significant drop. And I submit it's been inculcated into U.S. society that the U.S. military doesn't want whites. Now I'll go into why the deep state doesn't want whites. And my sources for this are my background in political science and physical science. So we have populations, based on specific geographic areas, and that results in a certain DNA that responds to a certain geographic area in terms of immunities and so on. And also personality qualities. Who knew? So we take the Inuit in the north, and we take the Bahamas in the Atlantic Ocean off of the U.S., a tropical population. This would be a cold weather population. And based on my studies in social science and physical science, so we see certain skin colors in certain geographic areas. For instance, you'll see brown and black skin in hotter climates, and that results in more sun, more melatonin in the skin, skin color responding to the environment. And then the studies have come out to show that it's easier for someone with white skin to maintain their body temperature in cold climates. So we see an association between skin color and environment. That's based on physical science and social science. Now, what I did not know until maybe the last 10 years probably, that skin color also correlates to certain characteristics. So white-skinned people, black-skinned people, black and brown, and the characteristics you see are these people have less emotion, and the black and brown has more emotion. This group tends to be less creative, whereas this group is more creative and athletes, musicians. But this group, their number one character is to be steady. And this group is more creative. And in all populations, white, brown, yellow, red, black, you see individuals with these type of characteristics in all populations. What you see associated with the skin color is a predominance. So the white-skinned people are steady, and the black and brown people are more creative, athletes, musicians like that, and more emotional. And the white-skinned people are less emotional. So they would make good soldiers, as would this group, but they would have different characteristics, is also good soldiers. Now, Kat Kerr, she's a Christian speaker, noticed in the mid-U.S., like in Michigan and Wisconsin and Illinois, cold areas of the U.S., that she would get less response from the people she was speaking to. And so she asked God about it. Am I not saying what I need to say? And God said, no. It's because this group with the white skin associated with cold climates have been prepared by me to be in cold climates and spend more time, studying the Bible and then prayer. And they are steady individuals, and they're less emotional. So we see information from God about white-skinned people. And now I put this out against a personal hero of mine, Dr. Martin Luther King. He was a black 60s civil rights leader who said, I had a dream. I've gone to the mountain. I've seen over in the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I have seen in the future we will judge God's people by their character rather than the color of their skin. So, a message from God. White people are good. So that's going on. Now, a short prayer. This is America the Beautiful. It's based on the song by Bates and Ward. May our skies remain forever clear and blue. May amber waves of grain ever fill our plains. May pilgrim feet ever seek our shores who are aligned with God, to walk in a land of freedom by constitution, in a land of liberty by law, in a land of grace by blessing from God. And we say, God bless America, beautiful place of patriot dreams and of brotherhood from sea to shining sea. And we say thank you, God the Father, God the Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and God the Holy Spirit. I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there, continue to pray. God is in charge and He is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.